Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Absolute Carnage with the weekly comic book roundup. And now we're going to move on to this week's Spider-Man books and Absolute Carnage tie-ins. So we're going to kick things off with Miles Morales, Spider-Man number 10. Or, going by legacy numbering, number 250. So, how exactly did Miles Morales get to 250 issues? Simply because, presumably, it's adding in the Ultimate Spider-Man runs. So, okay, alright, that's fine. So technically speaking, they're saying this is the 250th issue of Ultimate Spider-Man. Okay, that's fine. So, we start off at Empire State University on the Brooklyn Engineering campus, and a couple security guards are walking around talking, and figure appears and seemingly kills them. And he has a partner. And his partner calls him Norman. Following Saturday, Miles is waking up, working on his journal for creative writing. Another semester of creative writing means another journal. Turns out it's been a few months since the assessor thing, and that he hasn't put on the costume since. But he's been having some. He mentions he's been having some odd dreams about another world and another him. However, that's not the only reason he's up early on a Saturday. It is his birthday. So, first off, we learn why it is that Miles has his mother's last name instead of his father's. Apparently, it's because his father thought that maybe if Miles had his mother's last name instead of his, he'd have a clean slate, fresh start. So back at home, Miles' friend Judge shows up with a present. They're on their he and his grandmother are on their way to LaGuardia. But they had to stop and give Miles his birthday present. Gank shows up, but Miles has a crash up in his room. Goes to check it out, and it's Peter. And, well, sorry about the desk, but did bring him a birthday card. Though it was also the only card they left at the bodega. He explains that apparently a scientist and two guards were killed at ESU's Brooklyn Engineering campus the previous day, and some equipment was stolen. And there was also some other attacks, a particle physics lab and a tech firm. No survivors. And so this gets Miles to pull the costume out and put it back on, and so he begins to investigate, starts snooping around, and finds a lab, and ends up finding the lab. And he's attacked by a creature that showed up, the creature who is apparently named Norman. Miles knows that something is very wrong. He knows this creature from somewhere else. The more he tries to remember, the blurrier the memory gets. Then he remembers that's the Green Goblin. Anyway, While Miles is trying to get answers, he is promptly stepped on by Ultimatum, who has size-changing powers, an arm cannon, and a shield. And jet boots, too. So, Ultimatum and Norman leave. Miles goes to do some digging. There's not a trace of either of them. Gets home, and turns out his folks in Gank waited up for him. His dad and his mom split a piece of the cake already. Back at City Hall, Mayor Fisk is in a meeting with Ultimatum. Apparently, Mayor Fisk and Ultimatum go back a ways. And the mayor suggests that Ultimatum basically take over Brooklyn. As Ultimatum is none other, and Ultimatum is revealed to be none other than Miles Morales. So, okay, there's a backup story, but before we get to, let's basically go back over all of this. Miles Morales started off as the Spider-Man of, well, the second Spider-Man of the Ultimate Universe after Peter Parker was killed. In the first crossover story, Spider-Man, Peter ended up in the Ultimate Universe and met Miles. They worked together, things went great. Peter came home, Googled Miles Morales, wondering maybe there's one on this planet too. Or maybe there's one on this Earth too. But we didn't, he was apparently shocked by what he learned, but we didn't learn what it was he learned. We would then learn that, oh yeah, apparently Morales was was an associate of Kingpin's from Rikers Island. Helped out Kingpin in a fight, and basically, just kind of, hey, Fisk was like, hey, you saved my ass. Yeah, I got your back. Well, after getting married, Fisk basically arranged things so that no trace of Miles could be found. But then his wife died, and Fisk told him, hey, well, there is another Earth where potentially there's another version of your wife. Sure enough, and Taskmaster went to scout things out. It turns out that, yeah, his wife is alive and well on Earth 1610, Ultimate. I think it's 1610. And so, Miles went to the Ultimate Earth this was after Secret Wars, and while Ultimate Miles had already been folded into this Earth. And so, things can be happy. As for his outfit, first I'll show you a good look at Ultimatum's outfit. First off, we got basically a shield similar to Captain America's. The base of the costume appears to be similar to the costume that Hank Pym wore in Ultimates. The right gauntlet appears to be, as well as the boots, appear to be taken from the Ultimate Universe's Iron Man armor. So, yeah. Interesting. And it looks like we got ourselves a new recurring villain. So, backup story. The secret origin of Starling. So, we see Starling in Detroit years ago. The girl who becomes Starling in Detroit years ago. Her father walked out on her and her mother. However, shortly afterwards, a knock on the door. And, well, first her mom's worried about the bills, but there's a knock on the door. And apparently a duffel bag full of money. Charlie's mother credits it to an angel. 5 years later, Vulture is talking with his daughter-in-law and basically says, hey, look, if this money's dirty, we really cannot accept it. But Adrian says, hey, look, you know, every penny I've given you and my granddaughter is free, is above board. And so the Vulture meets his granddaughter. And even takes her flying. Fast forward 7 years. Strong's mother passes away. At the funeral, her grandpa Adrian shows up and also tells her that he's got something to show her. It's her own suit. And so her and Vulture go for a flyby. And he suggests she move to New York. After all, she's an artist, and no better place for artists than New York City. After all, he's got a place in Brooklyn he hasn't used, so, you know, she could move in there. Then we get a quick bit with her watching a warehouse with some crooked cops who are, as she puts it, dirty even by Mayor Kingpin standards, shaking down criminals and civilians. And so her and Miles seemingly take them down. That's where the issue ends. As she's narrating, she explains that she's had to get used to losing people. And she's grown accustomed to flying solo. Part of it being she doesn't trust people. And she sure as hell doesn't need anyone. But when she's in the streets, putting her life on the line in a strange city, it is okay to have backup. That is where the issue ends. Moving on to Black Cat, number 4. Where we left off with Black Cat, well, she had stolen the deed from Manhattan from none other than Doctor Strange. As part of a massive series of heists that's set up by her mentor, the Black Fox. Well, so we open up with kind of a back and forth between Black Cat, basically going back and forth between showing Human Torch and Black Cat preparing for Black Cat's arrival at 4 Yancey Street. Everybody's popping in there this week, apparently. And in fact, it flashes back to a week previously when Fox tells Black Cat just what the next gig is, or what the overall idea is. The overall plan is that they are going to take the New York Thieves Guild's 10%. Now, the idea here is that the New York Thieves Guild, who has made their presence known, at least in the first couple issues of the series, they get 10% from all of their thieves. Whatever goes into their vault, however, never comes out. So the Fox's plan is to crack the vault. Anyway, so it turns out Doc is a little perturbed by the fact that Johnny Storm goes by the name Human Torch after all. Professor Horton made, back in the late 30s, made an android called the Human Torch. And it's actually kind of why Doc got involved in, as he puts it, the fringe sciences. So, during the tour of 4 Yancey Street, Black Cat basically goes over the reasons why you don't rob the Fantastic Four's pad. There are 2 reasons. The first is in the security system, though you better believe it's top rate. Nor is it the guy made out of bricks who can bench a city block. Nor is it the world's smartest dad who can probably think you to death or something. No. Reason number 1 why you don't rip off the Fantastic Four where they live is Invisible Woman. You break into her house where her family lives? Ooh. So, turns out that we've also got Sonny and a buddy is staking out the Tinkerer, supplier to the Supercrime set, known associate of Black Cat, who runs as one of his fronts a pawn shop. However, a picture has popped up on Instagram showing exactly where Black Cat is, as they're waiting for Black Cat to basically waltz on into the Tinkerer's pawn shop. So Sonny jumps out of his car, heads, and basically starts beating feet to 4 Yancey Street. Turns out that it's not one of the various gizmos that the FF have, but rather a book that Black Cat is after. She also talks about the possibility of, the ups and downs of a potential thing with Johnny Storm. And it's kind of what it boils down to is he's not her type, really. But she can totally see it. And so, Doc and the backup, keep an eye on things and realize that when Sonny shows up, and realize, oh, that's the guy from the museum job. Of course, Johnny figures it's the food that Black Cat ordered. So, tells him to come on in. Another flashback to a week previous. We get an idea. Well, we learn what the book is they're going after. The Papers of Phineas Randall. Doc apparently is a huge fan of Randall. Explains that Randall was a genius who should have changed the world. A mind without peer. A fringe scientist without equal. And we get an explanation of what of the guild vaults. They're extra-dimensional space. No doors to kick, no locks to pick, no guards to trick. The perfect place for them to keep their hoard. However, Phineas Randall, some say that he had a propensity for making doors. Doors are places that don't normally exist, such as the mythical city of Kunlun from Iron Fist. And with his knowledge and sufficient expertise, they might make for themselves a door and help themselves to the vaults. After explaining the caper, Fox went on to privately tell Black Cat that this is his last job. This is his final legendary score. After all, this life is not a kind life to the old, and his days of jumping from windows are behind him, and he doesn't really have the temperament for a management role. And she asks, asks him to tell her about Dracula again, because that always cheers him up. Even asking if the two ever ran into each other again. Fox simply says yes. We get a brief picture of the two, but nothing added. So, Black Cat grabs the book, and then the lab alarm goes off. While that's going, when they make their way to the lab, Black Cat's backup has got Sonny wrangled. And they're trying to play out in front of Johnny. However, it is explained what the second reason why you don't try and rob the Fantastic Four's pad. The first reason is the Invisible Woman, Susan Storm Richards. The second is that craziness doesn't just follow them around. It makes house calls. She says to herself as Blastar from the Negative Zone opens their Negative Zone portal with a horde behind him. And that is where the issue ends. Alrighty, on to this week's Absolute Carnage tie-ins. We'll kick things off with Venom number 18. So where we left off in the portion of Absolute Carnage being dealt with in Venom. Normie Osborn and Dylan Brock are currently at the Maker's at a safe house owned by a guy named Rex, where the Maker has been working on a machine to potentially remove codices from those codices from those who have codex in them, and also presumably destroy said codices, whatever. So, however, he was attacked by 4 of the 5 Life Foundation symbiotes. while Dylan and Normie were rescued by a fifth symbiote, one called Sleeper. So we go into who Sleeper is. Sleeper is the seventh spawn of the Venom symbiotes. Going through space, he arrived on a planet and he ended up on the planet of the symbiotes. Learned what was going on. And so he started making his way back to Earth. Turns out that his host is a Kree soldier named Telkar. Well, Telkar's decaying corpse, that is. And Sleeper suggests maybe getting a new host, hinting at possibly bonding with Dylan. However, before that can happen, Sleeper's blasted off of Telkar, and Maker takes Sleeper into custody. Though, well, puts him in a jar, basically. However, Dylan explains, hey, yeah, he was actually a good guy, he was helping us. Turns out Sleeper's managed to remove the Life Foundation symbiotes from the family that came after them. And he's not going to kill him, he's going to extract your codex. The symbiotes, though, he's going to kill the symbiotes. And then once he's done with them, he will place Norman into the machine and be done with the whole thing. However, Dylan's like, no, we're not doing anything to Norman until Eddie and Spider-Man get back. But of course, Maker disagrees. So he puts one of the members of the family of four into the machine. Well, apparently, they're still conscious. And the realization simply causes Maker to say, well, that's interesting. And Normie asks Dylan not to let the Maker put him in the machine. Meanwhile, we get the phone call between Venom and Maker from Absolute Carnage number 2. And Dylan decides that they gotta get out of here. So, he starts thinking, okay, what would Eddie do? And then he realizes Eddie would do something stupid. And so they grab some weapons, and Dylan explains that him and Normie are leaving. And the reason why they're going to be able to escape is because Maker's must be a bit busy, as they managed to using the weapon, shooting at the Maker. They destroy the containment jars holding the Life Foundation symbiotes, which promptly go after the Maker. Normie offers to distract the hybrid Maker. And now Hybrid is aware that Dylan potentially has a codex in him. The codex that should have been in his mother. And it manifests itself briefly. However, before he can grab Normie and Dylan. Well, he gets stopped by Wolverine, The Thing, Spider-Man, and Captain America. And that's where the issue ends. Moving on to Absolute Carnage vs. Deadpool number 2. So where we left off here, Deadpool decided maybe he did actually need some psychiatric help and went to the Ravencroft Asylum to see about getting said help at the suggestion of Spider-Man a few months previously. So, when he got there, well, Carnage had taken over the place, and he did manage to weaponize a couple microwaves and at least hurt some of the Carnageized henchmen. But in doing so, he managed to make his escape. However, Carnage realized that, oh yeah, Deadpool's has bonded with like a bunch of different symbiotes over the years. His spine is like, the friggin' like hitting the friggin' Powerball. So he sends some of his minions after Deadpool. So we open up and he has added Will-O-the-Wisp of the UFOs, Conundrum, a villain I've honestly never heard of, and Freak, another villain I've honestly never heard of, who were formerly prisoners of Ravencroft, to the Carnage family. And they want him. Their job is to go find Deadpool, and at the very least, bring his spine to Carnage. So, Deadpool's hiding out at Deadpool's safe house and comic store with a neon sign saying, yeah. In the secret back room, which may or may not contain weapons of mass destruction. It totally does. And he's basically getting himself some guns ready. Spider-Man calls him up, however, and is like, okay, hey, hey man, you've never been bonded to a symbiote, but so I actually kind of need your help with this whole symbiote thing. And he's kind of, yeah, about that, but then the three symbiotes show up, while on Spider-Man's end, well, him and Venom are busy with additional symbiotes. So back with Deadpool. Deadpool lays a trap for the three villains who've come to pick him up, which they walk right into because D-list is probably about... Okay, Will-O-the-Wisp is D-list. I think the others are actually below that. The other two are actually below that. And he blows up the safe house and comic store. And yeah, he starts fighting with them. Conundrum's a goner. And so, yeah, he basically lulls them into a false sense of security, and yeah, he totally screws with them. And yet he totally beats them both. Beats both Freak and Will-O-the-Wisp. With Freak, it's pretty much a case of just attacking him with various weapons and riding him, pushing his regenerative abilities to the limit before killing it. However, then turns out they had backup, competent backup. Carnage, Norman Osborn, who, thinks he's Carnage. Like, a running gag is comparing things to pineapple on pizza. The issue, which I actually kind of found that amusing. And that is where the issue comes to its close. Finally, this last book of the week we've got Absolute Carnage, Symbiote of Vengeance. So, how does Ghost Rider factor into Absolute Carnage? Well, years ago, real time, 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 6, there was a brief story called Circle of 4. In it, X-23, Agent Venom, Red Hulk, and the, at that point, current Ghost Rider, a young woman named Alejandra Jones, all kind of came together. This is in fact why General Thunderbolt Ross why his body had the spine removed, was because he had exposure to the Venom symbiote during this. So, yeah. Anyway, she kind of faded off into obscurity and Johnny Blaze kind of was back in the forefront, and then he died, Robbie Reyes was, and then through time travel, Johnny came back, and now Johnny's King of Hell. So, apparently, now, first and foremost, this issue takes place before Absolute Carnage #1. So, we begin in Murad, Nueva Segovia, Nicaragua. It's explained that Alejandro once wiped sin from this village, took it from every man, woman, and child. And it introduced the people of the village to drooling drones devoid of any humanity. So, as penance for this, she's sworn to keep the village safe and to protect them from anything else that might wish to bring harm to them. Well, Carnage shows up wanting to do just that, as well as bring harm to, Alejandra. So we cut to the fadeaway in Brooklyn, New York. Danny Ketch is getting an order in, and he gets startled by an astral apparition of Johnny Blaze and drops a case of whiskey. And Johnny says, "Hey, I cannot leave hell. I don't know how Mephisto managed to do it all those times. So I need you to go help out Alejandra. She's in Nicaragua." So he agrees. So the cultists are also keeping an eye on things. But Danny heads down. Gets the lowdown on what's going on. And then Ghost Rider's up and teams up with Alejandra to take on Carnage. Honestly, and this is one of those, I was surprised that, Danny Ketch, Ghost Rider, is more than a match for Carnage, but he is. And in fact, Carnage manages to kill Alejandra, tear out her spine, and consume the Codex, which turns him into which gets them all hellfire for a little bit. So so now the demonically empowered Carnage fights Ghost Rider. Again, it does not go well for Ghost Rider. Alejandra, upon arriving in Hell, is met by Johnny, and she tells him that, she says, "Hey, send me back." And, well, he's just like, I can't. That's not my thing down here. So they figure we'll work around. During the fight, Ghost Rider tries to penance stare Carnage, and as he puts it, like, what, you're just going to hit me with my greatest hits? Okay. Didn't work too well against Venom, did it? Why do you think it would work against me? And so Blaze sends Alejandra's soul back up to Earth, and she takes over one of the villagers. And due to the interference of the cultists, the day is saved. Danny basically says, hey, y'all's guardian ghost is gone, but if you ever need me, if you ever need the help of a guardian ghost, just call. And so the Carnage of the cultists head towards New York, and Alejandra, back in Hell, is introduced to the other Riders of the past. And that is where the issue concludes. And that is going to be it for this week's comic book roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I put new content. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.